Cornelis van der Waal, Business Unit Leader for Energy and Environment. Quite a fancy title. What does it actually encompass and mean?
Well, basically I lead a team of research analysts and consultants, and we look at the energy and environment space. I provide strategic advice to organizations to help grow their businesses, identify new markets, and move into new geographies, etc.
A company that wants to invest in Africa, and I'd like to concentrate on Africa before we move into the local market. What do you do for somebody that wants to invest in Africa?
Okay. Before you make an investment, you obviously need to understand the risk associated, as well as the opportunity that could potentially be captured through your investment. And that, in a nutshell, is what we quantify. We go and we do market research to look at the opportunities, the risks, the challenges that is inherent in any particular market. And we do that within 12 specific verticals. My area of expertise is in the energy and environment space, but we also look at other verticals such as ICT, chemicals, materials and food, healthcare.
A lot of people have reticent views on investing in Africa. They see it as the dark part of the world where lack of skills, lack of infrastructure, and in the case of South Africa, very slow broadband speed, which does inhibit business. So how do you sell the idea to a client that it's a good investment under those circumstances?
Well, I think you've just highlighted all of these challenges are in fact opportunities, because somebody needs to go and build that road. Somebody needs to put in the optic fiber so that we can have fast internet. Somebody needs to build the power station. And let's be honest, the developed world is, well, frankly, developed. Asia is to a large extent developed. Australia, developed. Latin America, well, they're getting there. So where are we going to go for growth? Organizations who's looking for growth at this stage need to focus very clearly on Africa. If Africa is not part of your growth strategy, then you're missing out.
We have, like much of the world, an energy problem. How on earth do we solve it? Do we go the atomic route with more power stations? Do we bring in foreign companies to do it for us? Do we have the expertise in this country? There's a myriad of questions that want to be answered there, really, aren't there?
You're asking many questions in
yes,
one question.
It is. It's a statement more than a question in some respects.
Yeah, no, look, you are right. We are very much in the middle of an energy crisis. And when we say energy, we're not only talking about electricity, we're certainly talking about all types of energy. We are very aware that we need to become more sustainable. I'm not necessarily for or against climate change, but I'm very much aware that what we're doing at the moment is not sustainable. And therefore we need to find ways of doing things better. At the same time, we are running out of generation capacity in South Africa. We are sitting with tremendously old infrastructure, specifically on the distribution side. We have challenges with regards to things such as nuclear waste. We don't have proper energy storage for the renewable energy industry. So yes, the challenges are great, but at the same time, the opportunities are equally great. Significant investment is currently coming into South Africa as a result of the energy need that we have. We know that Eskom plans to spend about 320 billion rand over the next 5 years, 55% probably going into generation, 15% in transmission, 15% in distribution, and then the remainder on some other projects that they have.
You brought the name Eskom up. Obviously, I would imagine you do quite a considerable amount of business with Eskom. But then, of course, comes the question, who's going to pay for it, this change of infrastructure? At the moment, the layman and business is saying it cannot afford Eskom's policies of reconstruction. How do you get around that one?
Well, I think that the policies that you're speaking of is not necessarily Eskom's policies, but the Department of Energy. So it's important to separate these entities from one another. Yes, of course, Eskom is trying to run a profitable business. Well, profitable is probably the wrong word. They're trying to keep the ship afloat, not make massive profits. And there are very big challenges that the organization face, but they've also made significant headroads into some of the challenges that they do face. I don't think people understand the severity of the situation that we're in with regards to electricity in this country. And we've been able to keep the lights on and fairly sustainable since the big crisis that we had in 2007 and 2008.
Let's stay on this atomic power station drive, because I'm sure you're very heavily involved with that. There is a yay and a nay on that issue. How far down the road are we, and is it going to happen in your opinion?
It's a good question. I think we're sitting on a nice edge at the moment with regards to the decision. I think in terms of clean base load, yes, there's a really big, strong case for increased nuclear. On the negative side, there's obviously costs that's involved with this, substantial costs. There's skills that we don't have at the moment that we will need to train for. There's the big problem of nuclear waste. Although the volumes are small comparatively to the amount of energy that you generate, you do sit with nuclear waste that will be there for hundreds of years, well after we've left this earth. Our children will have to be the guardians of that waste that we create today. So the debate isn't over yet. I don't think we've reached consensus.
Is the debate leading towards pebble bed, or is it leading away from that now?
No, pebble bed is done and dusted in South Africa, unfortunately. We invested 10 billion rand in the development of the technology, and we weren't able to create a prototype, and government said that there's more pressing needs in the country, housing, infrastructure, etc., that this money needs to be spent on. So we were really close to making a breakthrough discovery that could have resulted in significant intellectual property being held in the country, and that was one of those really big pinnacles of breakthrough that we could have had, that would have really catapulted us as the four players in nuclear for industrial size solutions, inland, no water, wonderful solution. But it could also end up being a bottomless pit. So
isn't that sad that we could have reached that point? How close were we?
I have no idea. No, unfortunately, I'm not close enough to the project to be able to say that. But the decision makers decided that we're not close enough and that too much money had already been invested without the necessary results. And of course, that's also important. You can't just do research for the sake of doing research without having results and intellectual property being created.
Where do you sit on the fracking situation?
Yeah, fracking is a really interesting thing, and I think until such time that we've actually drilled a couple of holes to see what's really down there, it will be really difficult to say what the economic impact of it could be. I think the long and the short of it is that fracking is probably not good for the Karoo, but it is really good for the economy and for the country as a whole, and we need to look at, what is best. My personal opinion is the gas isn't going anywhere. We can wait a couple of years until we refine the technology to get the gas out in a sustainable manner, remove the chemicals from the processes that are harmful to the environment and to people, find replacement chemicals for that, and it's not going anywhere. It's been there for millions of years. So
now the sneaky
the
question
urgency to get it out, I don't quite understand.
The sneaky question is, do you know that this is coming because of a client that you're dealing with, or is this a summarization on your behalf?
Yes, a summarization on my behalf.
Okay, so there's nothing on the horizon that we're not aware of yet that's coming?
I'm sure there's many things that we're not aware of that's coming.
I think by that subtle smile behind those steely eyes of yours are telling me there is.
I'm sure there is. I'm not aware of them. I'm not withholding information from you. But yes, of course, companies are planning big things, so... and continuously they need to be on the forefront of development and research. So yes, of course, this
All right,
activity.
Let me ask it another way. Are some of those companies that might be interested consulting Frost & Sullivan?
I'm sure they are.
All right, let me finish up this rather intriguing and interesting interview with a question that is probably the million-dollar question. What's upcoming? What can you tell us that we might be excited about? In the
energy
future
space?
of the energy space, yes.
I think there's a number of things that's really exciting. We're seeing, for instance, the convergence of technology as a big area of opportunity for organizations. The development of true smart grids is certainly one of them, and we're not talking 3 years down the line. This is long term.
Explain the smart grid.
Smart grid is a grid where you have two-way communication and access from any particular point. In other words, you can in real time see exactly where you are using energy. The utility can see that. They can switch off whatever is required to stabilize the system, to make sure that you use energy optimally, to point out to you not to put on your dryer at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when we're having a peak, but to put that dryer on just before you go to bed, or whatever the case might be. But that is true being able to see in every household how energy is being consumed at that particular point, and then being able to advise consumers on how to reduce their demand by using it smarter or during different periods, etc. So that is a convergence where you have the IT industry, where you have the automation industry, where you have the energy industry coming together. And all of a sudden you see companies that weren't traditional competitors suddenly competing for market share. So your ICT companies, your mobile companies will all of a sudden be competing with your metering companies or with people on databases, etc. So it's really, it's very interesting. That's one. Then, of course, I think the biggest breakthrough that we require at the moment is a sustainable storage solution for energy. Batteries, in the sense that we know them, are not efficient enough for us to store energy. If we find a way of storing energy, then the whole debate around renewables become, you can throw it out the window.
Cornelis, thank you very much. A very interesting discussion. Thank you.